it's Nikki. So I'm feeling a lot better. My voice is still a little bit nasty, but you guys can deal with that, right? Okay, so the long awaited, we're just gonna make this what I made in September. So, and part of August, I guess. So the weather has been very gray on the days that I usually reserve for filming, and it's been gray all week, but it couldn't wait any longer because I promised you guys a video on Thursday, so I gotta make that happen. So the lighting may not be as good. I guess it's never really good, is it? It's a low budget system we've got here. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's start with what I'm wearing, which is Vogue 9182 right here. I made the shorter view. That's the only difference, is one's longer than the other. I made the shorter one, but I ended up, I think I cut off a little bit. I'm very short, so mostly in the leg. Like my torso seems to be like a normal height, but yeah, so it ended up being a midi length on me. And I did take the hem up, but I really like the midi length, and I really love this pattern. So I did make a muslin of this. You know what? I need my book. So we're going back in time here because I started this before I went to Japan, and that was in the middle of August. And then I had made a muslin out of it, and everything seemed to be okay. And so I went ahead and moved forward, and I got a good ways into the construction of this, and then I didn't quite have time to finish it before I went to Japan, but I got really close. Like, it was mostly done. So then I went to Japan, came back, and while I was in Japan, I ate all of the carbs that were available and gained a little bit of fluff. And so I'm having some trouble now getting it to lay flat when it's closed, but we're getting there. It's close now. Before I was having you should have seen it before, it was really bad. Okay, so let's look at my notes for this. Made a muslin. What did I make? I made a size 12 D cup muslin, and I made a 14 C cup, and I ended up going with the 12 D cup. I did have to reshape the princess line in the bodice, and I just fiddled around. I was not very scientific about it. I just kind of like sat in the mirror with the muslin, pinched it, and drew on it where it needed to be drawn on, and then everything was fine. And let's see. Oh, okay. So in the instructions, there are a lot of pieces to this bodice. There's 2 in the front on each side, so 4 total in the front, and then I believe there's 3 pieces to the back. Now, it tells you in the instructions to stop sewing at the dots. Like, you mark a bunch of dots, like where these seams are, and it tells you to stop sewing at the dots. I highly recommend going a little further, because what ended up happening is when I put the lining together with it, like, there were big gaps in it where I should have sewn further. Now, maybe I just didn't mark my dots very well, but I also couldn't really see much of a reason not to sew to the dot. Maybe I'm missing something, but that would be my recommendation. Go a little bit, but go like halfway past the dot. That'll work. Like, to where you're at least in the seam allowance, so you don't have to go all the way. Let's see. Oh, okay. So I may have to narrow the neckline for next time, because the straps have a tendency to, I mean, they're fine. I think what it is, I need to put a bra carrier on it, bra strap carrier. I haven't done that, but I might. I ended up shortening, so when I made the muslin, because it was a single layer and it didn't have the skirt attached, and I didn't have like any real closure on it, I just pinned it shut to make sure that the bust part fit right. What I didn't even bother thinking about at the time was the strap length. Now, my boobs apparently sit up pretty high, I guess. So look, the straps were like 2 inches too long. Like, I took a solid 2 inches off of them, but I only took the 2 inches off the back, right? So when I put it on, the front, like the strap for these things was way back here. Like, it was way back in my back. So I ended up taking, no, that's the wrong way. That's the wrong thing. It's the opposite of what you would do for a forward shoulder adjustment. And my mom and I went over this. I can't find anything on the internet that tells you what the opposite of a forward shoulder, aft, backwards shoulder adjustment. I don't know. So what I said before was wrong. It was too long in the front. So I had to take, the seam was like right here in this area. So what I ended up having to do was taking the 2 inches off the back to move the seam back to the top of my shoulder where it should be. So if you need to do a forward shoulder adjustment, you would do the opposite of that, right? Because your seam is too far back, right? So I'm putting this out to you. I couldn't find anything on the internet for whatever the opposite adjustment of that would be, but it's a not forward shoulder adjustment. It's a back. So I don't know if I'm just super confident in just walking around like this all the time. I don't know. But yeah, it was weird. So I just did that and now it's perfectly fine. Yeah, it's super swishy. I love it. This is a rayon challis that I got from Fabric Mart. And was it Fabric Mart? It might have been fabric.com. I can't remember anymore. I think it was one or the other. It was either fabric.com or Fabric Mart. And yeah, it was really nice, but it's crazy, right? This, like, there's so many colors and then the dots within the color, and you know what, let me just I did take a video of me wearing it and I'm gonna insert that soon, but like, just look up close. Look at these crazy colors. I love it. But I was having a little trouble with the buttons. There's, I think, 10 of them that go down the front of the dress all the way to the bottom, and I was having a struggle figuring out what kind of button to do, so I ended up just doing covered buttons, because that way I didn't have to worry about, like, you know, picking mostly purple buttons but then one of them ending up in a green spot where it would look crazy and stand out. So I just kind of did covered buttons and I think it all worked out really well. I love this dress. It was my last summer dress of the summer. Okay, so I am not gonna keep changing. I already changed into all of my outfits and to videotape them in advance, so I'm going to be talking to you in this for the rest of the video. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and insert a little clip of me bombing around in this thing. I had to do it, and I did it in a different room to see, because the light was so bad earlier, but I had a little bit less room where you couldn't quite see all of me from top to bottom at once. So I had to move the camera a little bit, but on the other ones I only showed you the top because they're all tops. Okay? Alright, so here it is. Okay, that was awesome, wasn't it? Okay, so next I made what did I make? Berta. I made this Berta top. Berta 6722. Okay, and so you have an option here of making it a dress, and then these two are both a top, and the only difference is the length of the sleeve. So one of them has really, really like extra super long sleeves. So, yeah, it was very easy and very quick. So, what did I do? So, I will go ahead and insert the clip of me wearing it right here while I get my thoughts together. Okay, so what did I do? I cut a size 16 and I just cut it straight out of the fabric. I didn't bother trying to mess around the muslin. I usually don't for knits. It's usually not really all that necessary, and not a lot of my knits are super precious to me, so I generally kind of just like go for it. So I probably could narrow the shoulders a little. Oh, there's a raw strap. That's why I need a carrier. So I could probably I could narrow the shoulders probably in this too. Maybe that's something I need to look into doing more often. But it's not enough that it's like crazy. So okay, here's where things went wrong. So the shoulder construction, the whole this area right here is weird. Basically what ended up happening was these little shoulder yoke pieces, those are inside out. I don't know if you can, let me show you. Yeah, that's the wrong side showing. Everything else is the right side. So that was an accident. It was purely my fault. I just wasn't paying enough attention to the instructions. So I'm going to go, you cannot notice it. You just can't. And even if you can, it will go ahead and say it's a design feature. So that whole setup is, the way that you do it is a little strange. And so what you end up with is this is a facing right here. So it's just folded over, right? So let me turn this thing inside out. What am I doing screwing around with this when I could just have turned it inside out already? I don't know what I'm thinking sometimes. Okay, let's do this. Okay, so now we're inside out. This is the back. So yeah, it's just a facing. Now I put some fusible tape in here, some double-sided fusible tape to hold it down because it tends to like flop out a little bit. It's supposed to, or no, it's not fusible tape. I did a fusible spray, like a spray can stuff in there just to see. I've never used that sort of thing before, so I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, like you just, like, oh, that's part of the facing. And then here's where the yoke is attached. You just kind of sew it on, and then you sew it onto the facing, and then that's where the seam is. And this is really hard to explain. I'm not doing a good job. So, well, look, make it and see what happens. It's really easy. It's really easy and it fits nice. So I didn't make any changes to it. But yeah, it's a little weird on the inside. And, you know, some of the gals on Pattern Review who've reviewed this mentioned that the way that you do it is a little weird, and I think maybe they have a better method on there. But for me, it worked, and it's really, it might be weird on the inside, but it looks fine on the outside, and I like it, and this will be very nice for fall. So that is that. Let's move on. Okay, so then I got all fired up about this seamwork Audrey jacket, and I wanted to make it in my neon green twill. Twill? Not twill. Tweed? Neon green tweed? Tweed. Yeah, that's it. So I did want to do that, but that fabric is precious, and we all know how we get when it comes into cutting into our little precious pieces. So I didn't want to just go straight for it, because I've never used this pattern company before. It's seamwork, and I didn't know what their fit would be like, and there was a lot of pieces. It's a woven. I just wanted to test it. So I took a piece from the muslin making closet that was better, you know. So it was this piece of sateen that I was trying to get my mom to take, and she refused to take it. Now, mustard isn't really a color that I rock a whole lot. Certainly a mustard crazy, I don't even know what kind of print this is, like flowers. It's like couch material. I sent it to Tim, and he said I should never ever wear it in public, but I think it's cute, and he can shut up. So I had just enough, although I had to do the under collar and some plain white sateen that I had, because I didn't quite have enough to get that out. There are approximately 1 million pieces to this. There are 1 million buttonholes. And then these are, you know, jeans buttons. And I used I didn't have enough to do all one kind. So some of them have little roses on them and some of them are just plain. Yeah, and there's a ton of top stitching on it. Here, I'll give you a little close up. I didn't do a crazy exciting top stitching color. I kind of just stuck with the, like a cream color. And I just serged the edges and the inside and did that faux flat fell serge finish. This has it's a 3-piece sleeve. Now I had the sleeves rolled up in my little video, but they're finished. Like there's nothing crazy. I'm not trying to hide anything. I did it properly, I promise. Nothing went wrong here on the sleeve. So I just like my sleeves rolled up in my jackets, in my casual jackets. So I think it fits really well. I absolutely love it. I like everything about it except making it. That sucked. Let me consult my notes. Seam work, Audrey. What did I do? I cut the sleeves in a size 8. I graded from an 8 to a 10 near the bust somewhere. Now look, there's like 3 pieces to each side in the front, right? So I kind of just picked a point and just kind of like graded out to the 10. I was not very, you know, particular about I was winging it, guys. Like I didn't have time to get all precise. So, and it worked out fine. Like everything went together, like all of my notches matched and everything like that. It's all straight line panels, right? So these front panels, you know, you got one like this and you got a couple like this. And so they're all straight lines. There's no curves or anything like that you have to worry about. So I kind of just did it. I'm not going to apologize for that. Okay. So what else did I say? Oh, the welt pocket. There's a welt pocket on this. So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna be afraid of this pocket. I'm not gonna be scared of a welt pocket. I'm using an indie pattern. Indie patterns hold your hand for everything, right? So I was like, yeah, this is gonna be totally fine. And so I was like maybe like 3 or 4 steps into the welt pocket instructions. I was like, why is everybody always freaking out about welt pockets? These are easy. And then I got to the next step and I was like, I don't know what any of this means. I'm done. Through the instructions, I was like, I'm just going to guess. I'm just going to guess. So I looked on the internet. I looked in books. I looked everywhere. There was no tutorial. So I'm not, like, if I'm trying to figure out how to do something, it's better if I just start from the beginning using a different method, because once I get into it and I get going, if the thing that I'm looking at isn't exactly like the thing that the tutorial is showing me, I can't, like, my brain cannot put together how to, what's different and what can I ignore and what can I adapt to what I'm actually doing. Does that make any sense? I don't know if it does. It didn't make any sense to me at the time either. So the thing that I had in front of me, the Seamwork Audrey Jacket, welt pocket, halfway through it, did not match any steps in any other tutorial I could find. So I was like, yeah, I'm just going to guess. So I just guessed. And you know what? Let me pick up this thing and show you, because my welt pocket is just fine. It looks exactly like the pictures on the inside. Well, oh my God, I'm messing everything up. So I did a little bit of bias binding on this because it was flapping around like crazy. So that's the inside. I'm going to show you this welt pocket and then you guys tell me. Can you see that? There's nothing wrong with that. I did a good job. I don't know what I did, and I doubt I could do it again, but this is good. I couldn't tell you how to do that because I don't know how I did it. I just, like I said, I just started folding things up and I was like, well, let me just pin this. This looks fine. And then just zipped it through the machine. I was like, yeah, I'm going to call it a day. So I probably, when I make it again, I probably won't put the welt pocket in next time because they sit in kind of a weird spot. And I could move them but there's a lot of crossing seams in that area, and I really don't see where else they could go, right? So this jacket is a little on the shorter side. I don't know, like they're not necessary, and I don't like that giant pocket bag on the inside of an unlined jacket. I mean, it turned out okay, but I don't think it's necessary. I will save making my welt pockets for something else. But then the other thing that happened was this thing took me, it was very labor intensive. So every seam you're sewing a million times, right? First of all, there's a million places where it's 3-piece sleeve, 6 pieces to the front, 3 pieces to the back. Well, 4 if you count and then yokes on the front. And every single one of those gets top stitched, and then you have to like sew your seam, sorry. So you're gonna sew your seam, and then you're gonna finish it on, I finished mine on the overlocker, which is the quick way to do it. And then you're gonna top stitch it, and then top stitch another line of stitching. And then you're doing that for like, I don't know, 1,000 seams in this thing. Look, I hated it. The end of it was great. I love it. I hated making it. It took me 100 years. I'm already so slow. I think I worked on this thing for like 2 weeks. It took me forever. So as much as I want a neon green version, I need a minute. I need a minute to catch my breath and recover from it, because that hurt me. That hurt me. So I'm glad that it all looked great, but it was unholy. Okay, let's move on to the final thing that I made. So I've been going on and on about how I needed a nice break from this jacket. Well, at the same time I was cutting out the jacket pieces, I cut out the pieces for the other jacket that I muslined, because I was also pretty excited to make that jacket. And I was supposed to switch gears and sew something knit and easy and just a t-shirt or whatever to like be as a palette cleanser. And then I was like, well, these pieces are already cut out. I may as well just sew another jacket, this one fully lined, because I don't know what I was thinking. But it turned out really well. It was a nightmare, but it turned out really well. Well, let me grab my book. Let me grab the, oh, shoot. I forgot to show you the Audrey. You know what? Let me just insert that clip right here of me wearing it. Okay, and in case, because I know I didn't, not in case, I know that I didn't show you the jacket. This is it, right here. Okay, seam work. Now, this is what I sewed next. This is Butterick 6382. It's an easy pattern, or it's marked easy. This one, I sewed View A, which is the one this gal here is wearing. I didn't put any trim on it. I didn't feel like it. I didn't have any to match, and the store wasn't open when it was that point, so I decided to not do it, because that's how I roll. And then let's get my notes here. So I sewed a size 12. I did make a muslin, and the muslin fit just fine, so I didn't change anything. Now, if this jacket was meant to close in the front, I would have probably had to do some sort of adding to the bust or waist or hip or whatever. But since it's meant to sit open, like apart, it was fine the way it is. God, something flying around my head. So, okay. I didn't have very many notes for this, but let me grab it right here. This is the jacket. This is the lining. This is the outside. Now, you know what? I'm going to show you the clip right here. So I don't know if you guys saw in that video. I don't know if you guys saw in the video. The fit was really good in the back. Like it looked perfect. Like it fit me across the back. Sorry, I had to cough for a minute there. Anyways, it fit me across the back really perfectly. Like it hit in all the right spots on the shoulder. The shoulder seam was in the right spot. It didn't pull anywhere weird. The sleeve looked great. Like the sleeve went in really nicely, and it hung really well. So I would say that this pattern was just made very well. Like it just really suited me. So there's 2 darts in the back, and then there's 2 darts in the front that run down underneath the pockets. And I just realized that I was pointing to it and you can't see it. So here's a pocket, and then the dart sits behind it. And these are just patch pockets that are lined. And now, so the fit was great. I loved it. The construction of the jacket was great. The construction of the lining also, although this fabric is terrible and did not press well and did not sew well and was just a nightmare to do, it came together fairly easily. When it came time to put the lining and the jacket together, things went off the rails. So the instructions, they didn't give you really a lot of information on how you're going to attach the 2 of them. So there's no collar facing, right? So the lining goes straight up to the top of the jacket. And they don't have you turn up a hem of the jacket at the bottom. The lining is also supposed to go straight to the bottom of the jacket. So what the instructions were asking me to do was to sew basically around the whole jacket and, you know, leave like a little gap in the bottom to turn it inside out. And that's cool, but up at the top where the shoulders were, the lining in the jacket itself, where the facing was at the top, something was wrong. There's no way that I could have machine stitched it together up there. So I ended up hand sewing across the back of the neck. And then I machine sewed everything else except for the, you know, the sleeve cuffs and the top. And I just turned it out through the top, and then I hand stitched it because I was able to better manipulate. And it still was kind of like is weird. I think something went awry, and I don't know what that was. And I have done a post-mortem on this, and I still cannot figure it out. So then the next catastrophe was the jacket was pulling up at the back, right? So like the lining was pulling the jacket fabric under with it, right? So clearly I didn't, it didn't go well. And there's no leeway, because normally you'd have like the hem turned up, right? And then you could, I don't know, like hand stitch. Look, it didn't go well, okay? So like it was pulling, I was like, ugh. I'm pretty lazy, and I leave a lot of things that I probably shouldn't, but that was like, it was no good. And I ended up having to, I did the cuffs as well. I hand stitched the cuffs, had to undo all of my hand stitching and redo them because they were also sitting crazy. So the other problem with the bottom, before I fixed it, was that, so the pattern on this is pretty geometric, right? So this is, we got a line right here, or right at the bottom. So what ended up happening was it was longer in the front than it was in the back. So you could see the lines like going off crazy. So what I ended up having to do was take a lot of the length off in the front and, you know, evening it out to the back. And what I ended up doing was sewing the facing like you would anything else, like you fold it backwards, sew it to the end of the facing, and then flip it like that, and then I just hand stitched the lining on because I had had enough of it at that point, and I just wanted it to do what it was supposed to do the first time that I did it, right? So I got my life together, and I got this jacket together, and I think it turned out very nice. Now, the fabric isn't for everyone, and I went bold with the lining, but I like it, and I think it goes really well with jeans. So that's how I styled it. Now, you can't see my feet, but it's pretty boring. There's just sandals in jeans. Okay, so I think that's all I've got. There's a couple of pictures I was going to insert at the end because there was something wonky I forgot to tell you about with the seamwork jacket. So that one, they do a weird thing with the interfacing where they have you apply the interfacing after you've already sewn the yoke to the front piece, right? So if you look at the way this is done, you're putting interfacing from the top here to the bottom. And instead of having you cut two pieces of interfacing, they have you sew it together here and then put the interfacing over the top of the seam. What is that? Is that normal? Have I just not seen it all and that's a thing that sometimes you do? It didn't, like it was weird. So I put a picture of the instructions so that you guys would believe me, because I feel like it's crazy. So I put a picture of the instructions and then I put a picture of what it looked like on my actual thing while I was doing it. So I'll put that in the end here. And then I think I've rambled on long enough. I am going to come right out and say that any other clothing other than what I just showed you right now was just crap out of my closet. I think it was all ready to wear stuff. So the jeans were ready to wear, the tank top and the little dress that I wore under the Audrey they're just ready to wear. You guys asked me to do a better job of styling and I would like to deliver that. So I also did a bad job, but this time I actually tried. So don't be too hard on me. Okay, I think that's enough for today. I have to go get a massage now. Sorry guys. Gotta go. Bye.